message. Oh, there we go.
It is now new teams.
Okay,
All that.
it just started. Okay, all right. Sorry, Commissioner Hayward, go ahead.
Okay, no problem. We'll start over. This is my first time flying this little ship too, so this will be fun. But anyway, good afternoon. I'm Alan Hayward, Chairman of the Washington State Public Disclosure Commission, joined today by the Vice Chairman of the Commission, Jay Leach. We're going to be hearing a number of cases today dealing with missing or late C1s and F1s. It is Thursday, July 24th. Time is 1:30. These brief adjudicating proceedings are being videoed and audio recorded. What I'm going to do now is turn it over to Jordan Campbell of our staff to give a brief overview of what this process is. Jordan?
All right. Thank you very much, Chair Hayward. So today's brief adjudicative hearing concerns 2024 candidates whom PDC staff allege have violated RCW 42-17A-205 and or RCW 42-17A-700 by failing to file a candidate registration, which that's the C1, or the personal financial affairs statement, that's the F1, or both, that were due to be filed with the PDC within 2 weeks of candidacy or no later than May 24th, 2024. PDC staff emailed candidates reminders regarding their missing C1 and F1 reports on May 10th, May 13th, May 17th, and May 22nd, 2024. On June 8th, 2024, PDC staff emailed and mailed warning letters to candidates regarding their missing C1 and F1 reports for election year 2024. On June 18th, 2024, PDC staff mailed and emailed hearing notices to candidates regarding the missing reports, including the option to resolve their case by submitting the missing reports online and a signed statement of understanding and $100 civil penalty for each late filed report to the PDC postmark no later than that was July 2nd, 2024. The resolved case list report for candidates that is appended to the brief enforcement hearing case list shows cases that the PDC staff have resolved prior to today's hearing through an SOU or closed administratively. The remaining candidate cases are grouped into categories on the brief enforcement hearing case list based on similar fact patterns.
Thank you, Jordan. So the staff has been provided us with written records of all these cases, and respondents have been given the opportunity to respond both by written response or to appear today by phone or video. The cases have been grouped by the staff so that similar cases can be heard together where that's possible. Testimony by staff and by any respondent will be under oath. Therefore, the staffers that I seem to be presenting today are Jordan Campbell and Colin Peoples. So if they are present, I would like to swear them in for their testimony today. Colin here. Please raise your right hand as I see you've done. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give under penalty of perjury is true?
I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. So I think, if I have it right, that we're up to our first case that Jordan's going to present. And I will turn it over to Jordan to call it up, provide the information. After he is done, I think this is a respondent that does want to appear and give an explanation.
Yeah, so we're going to be starting with folks who are with us. We're going to start with people we knew were coming first. Then we'll go through everyone else. So we're going to be first starting with Roderick Robin Dexter. So this is going to be a PDC case 155491, Robert Dexter. This respondent is a candidate for County Charter Review Commissioner for Whatcom County. Staff is alleging this respondent violated RCW 42-17A-205 and RCW 42-17A-700 by failing to timely file his C1 and F1 reports. These reports were due to be filed with the PDC within 2 weeks of the candidacy or no later than May 24th, 2024. They have filed one of their, let's see. So they filed one of the reports. They filed their C1 before the hearing. But they haven't filed their F1 yet. They have no prior violations, and they are participating with us today. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 4217A 700 against Roderick Dexter for failing to file and timely file the F1 and C1 reports and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37143 for a filer with no prior violations who filed the C1 report prior to the hearing but failed to file the F1 report by the day of the hearing. That would be the recommended penalties for that is $150 for the C1 and $250 for the F1. Val, if you have any questions.
Thank you. So is Mr. Dexter Roderick available? Yeah.
Colin, if you want to unmute him. Oh, he just needs to unmute himself. Mr. Dexter, if you hit the little microphone icon, that'll unmute you.
Should be up on the top right, Mr. Dexter.
There, how's that?
Perfect.
All right, we can hear you.
Oh boy, unbelievable. Okay, hi, Robin Dexter here.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Dexter. This is Alan Hayward, the chairman. If I could get you to please raise your right hand and swear or affirm that any testimony you're about to give will be under penalty of perjury and is the truth.
I so swear.
Thank you. Go ahead and give us your testimony.
Well, everything that I've heard so far is correct. I appear at this hearing to beg for mercy as far as the fines go. I understand what I have and haven't done. I've been on and off the helpline forever with Scott and I believe even with Jordan at one time or another. And I have tried 2 different browsers. There's no way to get you what you're asking for because I don't have any other option but the computer, and I am working away at it. I mean, I can't spend all day at it, but I did get the C1, and I have had a number of people try to help me I cannot scroll through your forms, and everything I can fill out on the F1 is filled out, but I have stopped short of going to the local Mac dealer, trying to avoid a bill, but that'll be next. What I will say is that there is no primary for the Charter Review Commission. And I understand that we like to cross the T's and dot the I's. I will get the F1 submitted, but I want you all to understand that Charter Review Commission is a once in every 10-year occurrence. It is strictly volunteer. There's no salary. And my intention from the beginning is to pretty much campaign by word of mouth. I have 0 expenses. The only expense I've had so far is the $200 I sent to you guys that just got returned because apparently I didn't send it correctly. And so I am just appearing to beg for mercy and for you to accept the promise that somehow, one way or another, I will get the F1 to you. But this is strictly a volunteer, once every 10 years occurrence, and I would like to continue to do it. I mean, I feel like it's just part of my public duty, I guess. So that in essence is really all I have to say. I'm just here to ask for mercy and a little more time, and I'm guilty of everything you have read that I'm guilty of.
Thank you very much. I'm kind of curious about the $200 that you sent. Were you trying to send $200 in along with a statement of understanding to settle the case?
Yes, but apparently I wasn't. Let me see. The mailman just brought this 20 minutes ago, and apparently the situation was not ripe for the statement of understanding. I haven't read this, so I'm not positive.
I can explain that. So we can't accept a statement of understanding unless all the conditions are met. In this case, Mr. Dexter hasn't filed his F1 yet, so we had to return the statement of understanding and the money.
Understood. Mr. Dexter, do you believe that if you had 30 more days and working with the staff that we could probably have an F1 filed?
Oh, I absolutely do. I mean, I do plug away at it all day, and now I've borrowed my wife's computer that has yet another operating system, but I imagine I'm going to have to go to the Mac dealer and figure it out. For some reason, and it's probably not your guys' equipment, I can fill out each tab on each of those reports, but if it goes below the bottom line, I mean, I can't scroll. And everybody that I've talked to at your agency has been really helpful and made suggestions, but I don't even honestly know how I actually got the C1 to scroll down enough for me to hit the last line, but you got it. So I promise I'll do the same thing with the F1.
I appreciate that. Before I make a ruling, Commissioner Leach, do you have any questions? Or? We're not hearing you. You muted?
I'd make the observation that some other people seem to be having trouble with the F1 as well, but that I have an Apple computer and I haven't had trouble filling out the F1, so I expect it's not the PDC website.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to go forward with an order unless you want to say anything more further, Mr. Dexter.
No.
Okay.
I've said my piece.
All right, I appreciate it. I'm going to have to find that the record, considering all the evidence presented in the case, does support a finding of a violation, but considering the mitigating circumstances, I'm going to be suspending some of the payments required ordinarily, and as follows. I'm going to assess $150 for the late filing of the C1, but you did get it filed. I'm going to suspend $75 of that so that what you owe is $75 as long as it's paid within 30 days. And on the other one, where the F1 hasn't been filed yet, I'm going to find $250 penalty consistent with the WAC, but suspend $125 as long as you have the F1 filed within 30 days. That puts you at where you were trying to get. They couldn't give you the statement of understanding, but had you been able to get it, it would have been $200. And that's what this penalty ends up being if you get the F1 filed within the next 30 days. In addition, the orders generally come with, and I will ask staff to attach these conditions to all orders today, but the respondent has to comply with PDC reporting requirements. The respondent has to file the missing report within 30 days. The respondent must not commit any other violation of these PDC laws that we're dealing with today for 4 years from the date of the final order is entered. and if it fails to meet any of these requirements, then the suspended penalties will be reimposed. The staff will be seeking that payment. I'd like the staff, as I said, to include those conditions in all of the further findings that we make today. A order memorializing today's oral ruling will be sent within 30 business days. Unless there are questions from staff or Mr. Dexter or the vice chair, that will conclude this case. Hearing no questions.
Just one thing, just one
Okay.
note. We do calendar days, not business days. So
Oh, okay. I think I got business days out of the script you gave me, but okay. In any event, if it's calendar days, we're going to do 30 calendar days. Okay. Thank you very much. This case is concluded.
all right, so we're going to move on to our next person,
Thank
which
you.
this,
Thank you.
and just so everyone, anyone has any question about this, you can drop off as soon as your case is done. There's no need to stick around. So, unless you really want to. So we're moving on to our next case, which is PDC case 155464, Christine Mathis. This respondent is a candidate who is running for Parks and Recreation Commissioner for Fidalgo Metropolitan Recreation District, which is a proposed Parks and Rec district, it looks like. This individual staff alleges that this respondent violated RCW 42-17A-205 for failing to timely file the C1 candidate registration before the day of today's hearing. This report was due within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate, or by May 24th, 2024. This respondent has filed their missing C1, and they have no prior violations, and they are participating with us today. PDC staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 42-17A-205 for failing to timely file the C1 report and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37-143 for a filer with no prior violations who filed the C1 report by the day of the hearing. In this case, the recommended penalty for this is $0 to $150. Bill, if you have any questions.
Thank you. So is Christine here? Responded here?
I saw her earlier. Yes.
She is here and she's able to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yes,
Before you provide any testimony, Christine, may I ask you to raise your right hand and please swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give under penalty of perjury is the truth?
do I need to turn my camera on?
No, if you just
Okay.
tell us your hand is up.
My hand is up. Okay, go ahead.
And do you have agreed? Yes?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and tell us your
Okay.
story.
So I am a volunteer. This is my second term. I only read these PDC things, file for them every so often. And the last sentence on your email says candidates for state office must register their campaigns with and report finance activity to the PDC. But it doesn't say when you're supposed to do it. I didn't know what a C1 or F1. I did my F1, but it doesn't say like you have to do it. So I didn't look more into it. That's my fault. I don't do this very often. So I say, like I said, I don't get any financial compensation for what I do for my town. So that's all. I'm asking if there's any way that you can decrease my penalty since I have had no prior violations.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Commissioner Leach, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sympathetic to you, and yes, there is a way we can reduce the amount. We're reluctant to completely eliminate it, even when it sounds like it was simply a good faith error. So what I'm inclined to do is find that under law a violation has occurred. I'm going to assess the penalty provided for in WAC of $150, but I'm going to suspend $75 of that. It's subject to you making the $75 payment that is required within 30 days. And all of the other conditions that go forth. Do I need to read those again?
No,
Okay. Yeah, you work with staff. They'll work with you. About the best I can do for you is a reduction of 75 as long as you get the report in.
yes, I've already submitted the report.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? If not,
Yeah, I just realized this, Commissioner Hayward, that we are just, this is on the ballot, we're going to be having a different district. We're going for a metropolitan Parks and Rec district. And so I was just told, okay, you're going to take you're no longer, you're just going to run on the same board. So I just assumed, okay, it's going to just transfer over to the next. So I didn't think you had to do, I thought I had done everything that I was required to do. I didn't see this as a campaign or that kind of thing. So that's another reason as well. So that's all. Thank
So
you
had
for
you-
listening to my comment.
had you filed a C1 to run for the different board, and then they changed the board? I guess I'm trying to understand.
Yes, sir,
Um,
I
Okay,
did.
you filed a C1 this year to run for a different board?
For the original board, which is the Municipal Parks and Rec Board 4 years ago, yes, I did, 4 years ago.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
But it came up to an election again this year.
Yeah, they're doing
And-
another district. They're getting it on the ballot for a Metropolitan Parks and Rec district, which
Sure.
gives us consistent funding. And so they just said, okay, we're going to have the same board. You're the same, so you have to rerun again. So I
Right.
didn't think that it would change. So
Yeah, it technically did, but go ahead, Commissioner Leach.
I have a question. The term you were elected to 4 years ago, how long a term was that?
3 years.
Okay, so you would have been running for something this year, no matter what.
No, sir. No, 2025.
Oh,
End of 2025 was my.
Well, I thought
my
you said-
second term.
thought you said that you filed one 4 years ago and you had a 3-year term, so I'm a little confused.
Well, I'm not the best at this, so I may have my years wrong. So I don't have it in front of me, but
All right.
go ahead, Jordan.
I may be able to clarify that. So she last ran in 2021. So if it was a 4-year term, which I suspect it is, I don't really know of any 3-year terms.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Then she would have been, her next election would have been 2025. So it looks like because they're converting it to a metropolitan parks district, they've, that's been moved, they kind of went out of order.
so it shortened her term that she had filed a C1 that would have ordinarily covered her through 2024, the C1 she filed.
Well, so
before.
C1s don't really cover a time period. They cover the
Well, they cover
election
campaign.
itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So she would have had to file either C1 in 2025 or in this case 2024.
Yeah, but it's obviously a difference of whether or not it's timely filed or not, depending on the year that it would have had to be filed. Commissioner Leach, do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, I'm thinking maybe we should cut her a little more slack because she has to file the F1 every year, and she did that. So she's making a good faith effort, and it sounds like she got some advice that wasn't completely helpful.
Right.
And so I'm thinking maybe suspending more of it than the original
I agree
suggested decision.
now that I understand that the situation was that she had every reason to think that she was covered with her last filing until 2025. So if I can, I'll revisit or reconsider that suspension. It'll still stay at 150, but I'm going to suspend 125 of it and make it a $25 penalty, assuming that she gets a C1 filed within 30 days.
All right. And she already has that, so it's just making the payment. So
Sure.
I will make note of that.
Yeah, and
Thank
thank
you.
you very much for clarifying that. We're sympathetic to what happened there.
Well, I don't know if you can I don't know if you can add that to your wording on the email so that to clarify for people like me, myself, that unless you're going for a different district, then you might want to look. I don't know how, because that's why I'm saying, because we don't understand all the verbiage if you don't see it very often. That's all.
Yeah, ordinarily terms don't get truncated without having to run again. If you run for a 4-year term, you get to serve it. But anyway, yeah, the
Okay.
staff can work with that kind of a unique situation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that hearing is concluded.
All right. So we're moving on to our next one. So this is going to be PDC case 155462, Lisa Olson. Lisa Olson is a candidate for county commissioner in Pacific County. PDC staff is alleging this respondent violated RCW 42-17A-205 by failing to file their C1 report before the date of the hearing. This was due to be filed within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate or no later than May 24th, 2024. They have not filed their C1 as of today. They have no prior violations, and they are participating today. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 42-17A-205 against Lisa Olson for failing to file the C1 report and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37-143 for a filer with no priors who failed to file the C1 report by the date of the hearing. In this case, the recommended penalty is $250. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Is Lisa available?
Looks like she is, so we'll be getting her.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Lisa, this is Alan Hayward, the chair. If I could have you raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give under penalty of perjury is the truth.
I do.
All right, thank you. Please go ahead and tell us your story.
Oh, I am guilty as charged, except for I did file my C1, but I just saw an email before as I was logging on to this that I put the wrong year on it. I put 23 instead of 24. So as soon as we get off of this, I will go in and it said I could put it back to draft form and correct it and then resubmit. Is that correct, Jordan? Okay. So I will do that. I did it a few days ago.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask is so it still would have been late. It simply
Oh,
wouldn't
absolutely.
have been.
Yes, it was.
But it would have been filed, but late because of the mistake.
Yes, sir. I guess my only excuse is I think I was just so relieved that I didn't have an opponent, and I just had my granddaughter that I've raised since she was 3 was graduating in May or early June, and lots at work, lots at home, just a ton going on. And when I didn't have an opponent, I think I just put it out of my head. So so anyway, it's my fault and I did it. I apologize.
I appreciate it. I think we're going to be able to give you some relief.
I appreciate that.
Commissioner Leach, any comments or questions?
My only thought is if it was a mistake of just putting the year on, maybe we should treat this as if it was filed before the hearing in terms of penalty assessments.
I would agree. And so that being the case, I'm inclined to say that we're going to going to fine 150, but suspend 75 of it, so that the penalty is $75, and the requirement that the document be correctly filed with a 2024 date on it within 30 days.
You bet. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any further? I guess that case is concluded. Next, please.
Thank you all.
All right, so we're going to move on to, we received written participation from this person, but she is also here today. So we're going to move on to case 155463, Mara Lee Smith. So staff, Marley Smith is running for County Charter Review Commissioner for Clallam County. Staff is alleging that this respondent violated RCW 4217A-205 by failing to file or timely file the C1 report that was due within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate, or by May 24th, 2024. This report has been filed. And they have no prior violations, and they are participating today, as well as they provide us with written testimony. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 4217A-205 against Mara Lee Smith for failing to timely file the C1 report and assess appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37-143 for a filer with no prior violations who failed to timely file the C1 report, or who filed the C1 report prior to today's hearing, but after the hearing notice. In this case, the recommended penalty amount is $150. Will, if you have any questions?
Did we lose Alan?
I think we did lose the chair.
Still shows them as being in here.
Hi, am I here?
Yeah.
Yes, there you are.
Okay. Yeah, somehow it knocked off. But yeah, is Ms. Smith here? Marley Smith?
She is. She should be able to unmute and talk.
I'm unmuted. I'm here.
Okay. Ms. Smith, if I could have you raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give under penalty of perjury is the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
I filed my C1 before the deadline. I'm not sure what the issue is with that. It's regarding the F1. Your website is buggy. It doesn't allow people in. Once you get in, you can't scroll. You don't get the full everything loaded onto your screen, so you can't maneuver. And if you hit the back button, you get thrown out and you have to re-sign in. So I got incredibly frustrated by this. You know, it's like the instructions are a little obtuse. It's kind of hard to understand exactly what you're supposed to do in what order. The letters are very difficult to understand what you're asking. And I found it to be, and I've run before. Your website wasn't this bad 4 years ago. So I found it to be incredibly frustrating. I also find it really frustrating to be, to have fines for a position that is a volunteer position for 1 year for charter review. It's not even a year, it's about 8 months. And if anyone actually does spend money to get elected to this position, they're crazy. But I did find a really hard thing with that. I couldn't skip on the F1. I had to disclose my husband's information, even though he's not a resident of Washington State. I'm really frustrated. So that's kind of the way it works. I did get my C1 in on time, though. I mean, I got it in with your first nagging letter.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Can't hear you, Jordan. Jordan?
Sorry about that. I would note that the C1 was filed after the hearing notice on this one. It was filed on June 18th.
No, that was the F1. The C1 was filed in May. It even shows that on your website.
The F1 was filed on May 31st.
No, other way around. The F1 was filed just in July or late June. The C1 was filed in May.
I think you might be conflating getting the reports mixed up.
No, I am not. I filed the C1 before the deadline. The F1 I just did in late June. So I don't know what else to say about that. I've run before. That's why I needed to do the C1. The F1, I couldn't get back in to file it because I should be able to do the C1 and the F1 immediately after, but it wouldn't allow me to do that. So that's why it didn't get filed until late June. June 18th is when I filed my F1. So I don't know exactly what's going on. The redesign of the website is terrible. It kept trying to throw me in to file my taxes for my business. I finally got into the right place, and then it locked me out. So, I should be sending you guys a bill for the amount of time I've wasted, honestly. No, C1 was filed. And when I looked at it yesterday, it showed it was filed.
And I know that
I am looking at the records right now. The candidate registration, that is the C1, was filed on June 18th, 2024, in the financial affairs disclosure statement detailing the personal finances of the candidate and her qualifying family members was filed on May 31st, 2024.
Neither of those numbers match up with what I have in my records. I'm really confused now.
This Vice Chair Leach, and I just reviewed the records, and I see the F1 being shown as filed on May 31st as well. So is there any way we could have, within our system, transposed one for?
I'm never going to say never, but I mean, there's a clear record of what there's going on through IT and submissions, and there was a very low possibility that the numbers would be transposed because they're two different systems, filing reports.
But in the materials you sent to us, you only show one of the reports having been filed late. Doesn't clarify whether it was a C1 filed late or an F1 filed late, but you're only showing one filing was late. So unless, I'm kind of inclined to say, let's kick this one forward until we can get straightened out. Is it two that were filed late, or is it one that was filed late? And if it was one that was filed late, which one is it that was filed late?
Chair Hayward, would it help for me to do a screen share and show you the record?
Well, I mean, if you're showing me that two were filed late, I guess my question then would be, that's inconsistent with the information we received that we're supposed to be looking at one violation.
Even the F1 being filed at the end of May was filed before the hearing notice was sent. So we are only here dealing with those cases for which reports were not filed as of the date of the hearing notice.
So we're not even, the F1 at the moment isn't in play, even though it hasn't been filed, or it has been filed, but it was filed some other time. One thing that's in front of us is the C1.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. When I read the comments that we received, I was confused. And then I thought, well, maybe I can get unconfused, but I'm more confused now than I was when I just read the comments. But what we're looking at is the C1 that was filed late, and there wasn't any problem, according to Marley, with the C1 filing as far as the computer system. So is that correct, that you didn't have a problem filing the C1?
I filed the C1 within 2 weeks of filing for office. I had trouble with the F1 because I couldn't stay in the system. It kept throwing me out.
Right.
and it was just not working right, and it wasn't loading properly. Now I'm using Chrome and Firefox. I tried both of them. I don't know what the issue was at all.
Okay.
I-
But if you file the C1 within 2 weeks of filing for office, then you file timely, and we wouldn't have a violation here if indeed that is what happened. And you're swearing under oath that that's what happened.
It was
I-
the F1 that I filed later. I mean, because that was the one I was reluctant to do because I kept trying to, I work a lot of hours, so there's that. But I kept wanting to ask, why do I have to fill out this F1 regarding my spouse if my spouse isn't a resident of the state at all and there's really no connection between us? So I found that to be kind of, I never was able to call you in a timely way to do that, but that's why I delayed on the F1, because that was what I didn't want to disclose, because it seemed like a violation of privacy, actually. So, and there's no way to skip ahead. And when you do make a mistake, there's no way you can go back, because the second you hit the back button, it throws you out of the system. And I think that that's really bad. I also cannot follow your letters. It's like this needs to be so much more streamlined and easy to understand. And there needs to be a help system so you can get things clarified, because I don't speak your language. So I found that to be very difficult, that it's not written for a fourth grade reading level, which is what it should be, which is everything I write is for a fourth grade level. It's really difficult to follow it, especially when I'm doing this at 2 a.m. or whenever I have time to do it. So I don't know. I'm absolutely irked. The only reason I'm running for charter review is because I wanted to see more than 5 people on the ballot, because people should get a choice when they're electing 5 people. There shouldn't be just 5 people to vote for. Unlike our judicial thing, which is all 3 of them were instantly appointed, officers, and there's nobody at all running against them, which I think is just horrible. So, I'm doing it that way. I don't really need this position. I will never run again, I promise.
Well, I can't really make a judgment based upon the facts that are available to me and what isn't available to me, I don't think. I mean, for example, the C1 presumably is dated. Can you tell me the date on the C1 that you guys have?
June 18th,
Well, that's
2024.
the date you're saying you received it, but when they signed it, is there a date on the form itself that they put a date that they signed it?
No, you don't do that. There's no
Okay, so-
signing.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to.
Right, but there should be a way to sign. There should be a way to sign it, because I don't know what happens to your computer system. There is no way to verify when people put things in, because we don't sign anything at the end, which seems to me to be a flaw, because I sure have to do that with my taxes.
Chair
Let me
Hayward, there,
jump in
there
here. I'm
is a-
looking at the logs, and the C1, which you do have to type I certify to submit. The C1 was turned in on June 18th, 2024 at 5:33 p.m. And it was verified later on, 2 days later,
Okay.
on 6/20/2024 at 12:06 p.m.
Well, then I apologize. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I've got too many things going on. That was probably the same day I also did my taxes then.
Okay,
I don't know. I give up.
Vice Chairman
It's too,
Leach,
it's really confusing.
yeah, Vice Chairman Leach, I look to you for guidance comments.
Well, obviously, Ms. Smith thought she'd done what she was supposed to do, but we do have a violation, and so we're kind of stuck on whether we can or cannot find a violation. So I think we have to find one, where we can deal with the equities of it is in the penalty that's assessed. And she has a history of having run for office and having filed, because she's been a city council member in Port Angeles and complied with all of the laws regarding disclosure.
I was a failed candidate.
Okay, I'm sorry. it doesn't say on what I'm looking at whether you won or lost. So
I lost, of course.
okay. Well, anyway, I think that's the route I would take.
Okay.
And we have full compliance at this point, it sounds like, because the F1 was filed at the end of May and the C1's been filed. So I think a relatively nominal assessment is all that the facts require. That's my thought, Mr. Chairman.
I appreciate that. So if the F1 has been filed and we're not talking about it in a violation of it, and the C1 has been filed, it was filed late, but she believes she filed it on time or was intending to file it on time, I would find that she didn't, according to the records, and therefore a violation exists. But there certainly are ameliorating circumstances, mitigating circumstances that will cause me to find the violation, find the $150 penalty, but suspend $125 of that for a $25 penalty, as long as it's paid within 30 days.
How much trouble is it to pay?
They've got an easy system now.
Okay.
Yeah, instructions on payment will be sent with the order, which will go out within 30 days of the hearing.
All right. Thank you very much.
And as always, if you have any questions, just give us a call. We're more than happy to answer any questions.
You're not open at night when I have time to do this. I don't have daylight hours usually. So can I have your home number?
Okay, thank you. I think we'll conclude the hearing, and thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, so we're going to move on to let's see. So we're going to move on to the person who would come next on our agenda, unless we have someone if we want to take someone else out of order. Let me check real quick.
Jordan, it appears that the next person in order is here. So maybe we should just take, it looks like it's Mr. Taylor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is going to be a PDC case 155482 against James Taylor. So this respondent is a candidate for County Charter Review Commissioner, Clallam County. Staff is alleging that this respondent violated RCW 4217A 205 and RCW 4217A 700 by failing to timely file the personal financial affairs statement and the candidate registration, which were both due within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate or by May 24th, 2024. They have filed both reports. And they have no prior violations, and they are participating with us today. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 4217A 205 and RCW 4217A 700 against James Taylor for failing to timely file the C1 and F1 reports and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37143 for a filer with no prior violations who failed to timely file the C1 and F1 reports, but filed it by today's date. Bill, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, is Mr. Taylor available? Mr. Taylor?
He's good to unmute whenever.
Mr. Taylor, look up on the top right of your screen. There you
Am I
go.
good now? All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
God, I was panicking.
Mr. Taylor, this is Alan Hayward, the chairman. If you would raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give under penalty of perjury is the truth?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Go ahead and tell us your story.
this is the first time I ever filed for anything. And the first thing I noticed once I filed was everybody and their pet rock sent me emails. And foolishly, I didn't set up a separate email account for this. And so thus I ended up getting a flood of emails. And ignoring these emails, I also ignored all the emails from you. So there was one that came in that I finally spotted and said, hey, you're in violation. And I think there should be kind of a lessons learned in, maybe there's like a paper copy at where you file that tells you these are the things to expect you need to do. Because I didn't know I needed to do this. And then once all the people trying to advertise that, for signs and everything else, I just put you in the same box I put them. So I'm on a fixed income, and you think $200 is nothing, but there's a whole lot of months where I'm dipping into next month's money before I got my bills paid. So $200 is a significant amount of money for me. And like I say, I've heard other people say this process is confusing. It's real confusing if you don't even know you're expected to do these things. And, you go to the little electric stand in the county courthouse and you fill in the buttons. And, it'd be really nice if there was like before you file, do these things, and you probably do have it. And I probably just ignored that as well. So I plead, I guess I'm pleading ignorance to the process.
Okay. I am sympathetic that a county review charter commissioner is probably not the same amount of political involvement by people who might know a lot about PDC. Commissioner Leach, do you have any comments?
I don't on this one, no.
Okay. Well, I think I have to find a violation because the violation is there. I am concerned about, given the nature of the race, the sworn testimony of low income, I'm going to go ahead and find that there is a violation of the statutes, and impose if the original penalty is $300, we'll impose that, but I will suspend I'll suspend $200 of that, making the penalty $100.
All right. Is there a way I can just withdraw my name from the whole process and not pay the $200?
You'd have to check with the auditor on that, but I believe the answer would probably be no.
All right.
Unfortunately, we're past the deadline for that.
Yeah, I mean, this whole process of moving chess pieces when you don't even know how to play checkers is kind of frustrating, because I didn't know. I get this thing. I said, what else am I going to be subjected to? I mean, after I pay this $100, am I then in the free and clear? Am I going to run into some other thing that I didn't do correctly?
You would still have to file any of the documents, but you have filed them, so it's just the payment.
Okay, and is there any other mystery stuff I'm going to encounter, or is that going to be it?
Chair, may I offer something?
Sure.
Mr. Taylor, it does appear that you registered your candidacy under full reporting. That will put you in a situation where you owe some mandatory expenditure reports.
Okay, and
if you don't
how do I
expect
get
to
out of
spend,
that?
so why don't you connect with Jordan or Colin or one of our customer service staff after this hearing?
Okay, because I don't tend to spend any money. I don't have any money to spend.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And then am I going to get an email that says that here's where I make my payment? Or do I need to go through the PDC website and find that?
No, the staff will be in contact.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you'll get an order both by mail and email.
Okay, now that I'm aware of the process, I'll watch for the email.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so we're going to move on to our person who would be next on our list. So this is going to be PDC case 155454, Ace Haynes. Ace Haynes is a candidate seeking a state senator position in Legislative District 23. Staff is alleging this respondent violated RCW 42-78-205 by failing to file the C1 report that was due within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate or by May 24th, 2024. The respondent has not filed the C1 report. They have no prior violations, and they are participating today. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 42-17-8-205 against Ace Haynes for failing to file the C1 report and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37-143 for a filer with no prior violations who failed to file the C1 report by the date of the hearing. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Is Mr. Haynes available?
Looks like he can unmute.
Maybe. All right, they finally got my disableds off. Geez, the PDC here. I'll raise my hand, testify.
Thank you. Thank you for raising your right hand. If you will swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give under penalty of perjury is the truth.
Yes, I affirm.
Thank you.
All right, so the PDC has been grossly malicious in this action. You can clearly see my C1 filed online. It says it was submitted on the 10th. I have no idea why they're pursuing this other than I've been the victim of felony actions by malicious criminals in all forms of government since becoming a candidate for office years ago. I can only assume that this is an act of violent white supremacists trying to prevent me from running for office. As we've seen in previous hearings, and I would have gladly testified with the other people, the system is designed to be as malicious as possible, and the whole system is having a deleterious effect on people's ability to participate in government. I have no idea how to respond to this complaint other than to tell you, you can see my C1 filed on the PDC website, and it says it was submitted on the 10th of May. I've sent written copies to the PDC showing the link and the screenshots when they sent me the complaint. I have literally no idea why we're here other than the PDC is being grossly malicious against me. And this hearing is ridiculous too. If this is an open public meeting, how come we are not allowed to talk when other people are presenting? Like, I would like the rest of the people here to unmute so that they can testify on my behalf if they wish to, but the PDC would have to grant them that permission, even though this is supposedly an open public hearing. I would like to hear from Alice Fimmon and Connor Edwards about their difficulties dealing with the PDC system this year, because I too have done it before and it has never been this difficult. I have dealt with gross incompetence from PDC employees from the very first person who contacted me, who said that my registration had been deleted because they didn't receive my candidate filing, which doesn't make any sense. You shouldn't delete people's registrations just because they didn't file. But more importantly, I've gone all the way up to Sean Flynn, and this guy just says, do things that I say, doesn't cite any laws, won't show any instructions to indicate that I haven't done everything flawlessly. I've literally followed every written instruction to a T. The only thing that's gone wrong apparently is on the PDC's side. They haven't got it in the right file folder, I guess. The facts of the matter is we could have had this fixed on the 11th, but the issue is entirely in the PDC system. They refuse to fix it on their side. They refuse to state publicly that they want me to fix it on my side. They've only asked me to fix it privately through emails, which then would make it look like I'm attempting to commit fraud by filing multiple C1s for different candidacies, which doesn't make a lick of freaking sense. But again, I've been the subject of malicious prosecutions for years now at the hands of violent white supremacists, so I can only assume that this is another one of those. My charges routinely get dismissed, and if this one isn't right now, I'm just going to have to appeal, because honestly, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Thank you for my time.
Thank you. So, Jordan, talk to me about whether or not you guys somewhere have a filing.
Yeah, so Mr. Haynes submitted a C1 for a House of Representatives position. And of course, he filed to run for a state Senate position. So in this case, we don't have a C1 for the state Senate.
That's not
position.
accurate. The C1 you can look up online clearly states that it's for the Senate. I shared the screenshots. It shows Senate. The only problem is they have it in the wrong folder, but the information in the C1 is correct. I cannot make them put it in a different folder.
So it was originally filed for, as I said, a state rep position. In order to have it be a state Senate position, it has to be a new filing. He can't just amend the.
That is some bullshit. They're just making that up. They do not have that written anywhere in any public rule. And in fact, the rules state clearly the opposite, that you have to amend your C1 when you change the information, and you should only file one C1 per election cycle. There would be no reason to file a separate C1 because I chose to run for a different office. And to be fair, that's not even what happened, because I didn't file for a separate office and then run for Senate. I never filed for the other office. The information was wrong, and I corrected it as soon as it was apparent that it was wrong. Thank you.
So did you file a C1 to run for the state house before the filing is opened and then never filed for the House?
I've made a filing back in August of 2023 because I was trying to declare my PCO campaign. And even though the law states that there's nothing prohibiting me from running for PCO using a publicly declared campaign, the PDC refused to let me file a PCO campaign because it's not required. So I was already having problems with the system back in August of 2023. And then, yes, I filed on May 10th an updated C1 as is required by every written rule, and they've just refused to put it in the right box.
Okay. Jordan, any response on that?
I would defer to Kim or maybe Sean
Okay.
for more information.
Kim or Sean? Kim?
The same requirement that we're asking of Mr. Haynes has been asked of every candidate. We often have people who at first want to run for one office and then decide to run for another. We've had several of those, especially in legislative years, as I'm sure you're aware, that often happens. And we do require them to file a new registration. It is a new campaign. It is not the same campaign. And so amending a prior registration for a prior campaign is not compliant.
Not a method.
Nothing in the rules agree with what they're stating. They don't have any public information to tell people to do that. They only tell you to do this in private. And again, I cannot risk it looking like I'm committing fraud. If they would literally just show any other instance of someone else doing this, if they would state publicly that they're asking me to do this, if they would put in their rules exactly what they're telling us here today, written on the PDC website, so I could follow these written public instructions, I would. But they have refused at every turn to comply with what is known as fair notice. This is a blatantly criminal act by the PDC committed under gross negligence and criminal misconduct.
You know, can I speak, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead. You were my next call, but I was going to tell you first.
Mr. Haynes, you're using a lot of what I hope is hyperbole and ill-advised.
The PDC of committing.
Will you let me speak? I listen to you. Will you let me speak? Will you afford me the courtesy of an opportunity to speak? I listen to you and your diatribe.
How I'm speaking, I am going to tell you are wrong.
You don't have any civility to display? Is that what you're telling me?
Not if you're going to tell me I'm being hyperbolic. That is not civil. You might as well have called me stupid.
Okay.
No,
That
they're
is
two
rude
very
and
different
uncalled
things.
for.
I'm hoping you're hyperbolic and not truly accusing people of criminal behavior, because that's defamatory.
It's
And I'm
not
giving you an
defamatory if it's true.
I'm giving you an opportunity to retreat a little bit from your hyperbole.
Not at all.
Very well. I think
would
we
love
should
to have a
impose.
court hearing about whether or not I'm the victim of criminal crimes committed by the PDC, because again, you guys can see my C1. I have been through dozens of people, emails, trying to get this resolved. There is no reason why we are in a hearing right now other than blatantly malicious and criminal acts by the PDC staff.
Mr. Chair, I think we should find a violation and follow the normal.
And see my
penalty.
C1 online right now.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find that there is a violation and that there's been a fail to file a C1 for the state Senate campaign, and impose the penalty of $250 as set forth.
And that's further
in the
ridiculous, Your Honor. I have not had any campaign contribution. I directed everybody to give money to local charities.
C1's unrelated to contributions. It's just the fact
No,
of the
the fine
candidacy.
is related.
So we're concluded
campaign
with this.
that collects no money to be fined is again just malicious and deleterious to the democratic process.
Thank you.
Particularly one like myself, who again is extremely compliant.
That's fine. Well, you can be extremely compliant, but it's going to be hopefully $250 and you going ahead and sending a Senate C1. Thank you.
It's already online.
Next case, please.
Got to actually unmute myself. All right, so our next one is going to be case 155466, Teresa Taylor. This respondent is a candidate for County Charter Review Commissioner for Whatcom County. They have not fought. Staff is alleging this respondent violated RCW 4217A205 by failing to file the C1 report that was due within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate, or by no later than May 24th, 2024. This respondent has not filed their C1 by today's date, but they have no prior violations, and they are participating with us today. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 4217A205 against Teresa Taylor for failing to file the C1 report and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390, 37, and 143 for a filer with no prior violations who failed to file the C1 report by the day of the hearing. In this case, that recommended penalty would be $250. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Is Teresa Taylor available?
All right, looks like she's able to unmute.
Hello.
Hello, Teresa. This is Chairman Hayward. If you would raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is under penalty of perjury is the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Please go ahead and proceed.
I would like to formally apologize for failing to timely file the required documents with the PDC. I have been working multiple jobs between Memorial Day weekend through the 4th of July. And there was also a misunderstanding. I was unaware that the Charter Review Commission was subject to PDC filing requirements. This lack of knowledge led to the oversight and subsequent failure to submit the necessary paperwork by the designated deadline. I understand the importance of timely and accurate filings, and I deeply regret this mistake. And please be assured that this failure was not intentional. And I plan to take full responsibility for this oversight. I have applied for the C1 online today. I completed that application. And I would also like to emphasize that I have always complied with the PDC I was an elected official for the Ferndale City Council, and I'm also a trustee for Whatcom Community College. And I have consistently fulfilled my filing obligations with the PDC. And I'm hoping to rectify the situation by asking for forgiveness and following the steps that I need to take to be in compliance. And I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. Any questions?
I just have one thing. It does look like she has filed her C1. Looks like it was filed right around 1:12 today.
I actually started a draft and I had a misunderstanding that because it looked like we needed to have a bank account, and I did not intend to raise money for a charter review commission. I didn't think it was necessary. So that's part of the reason, my misunderstanding. I didn't think it was like, I don't look at charter review commission like I do other candidates, I guess. And so, yeah.
Appreciate that. So I'm inclined to, well, I have to find a violation. There is a violation here, but there are a lot of mitigating circumstances. My inclination, unless, I guess I'll defer first to Commissioner Leach. Do you have any comments?
No, I have confidence in your decision-making process in this case.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. We'll go ahead and find the violation and the $250 penalty, but I will suspend $175 of that penalty conditioned upon that we do get the C1, which apparently is in, and it's assuming it's accepted or whatever, just the payment of the $75 within 30 days will be sufficient.
Great.
And I need to make, I understand it's a different kind of campaign, but we do have to be fair to everyone that has to file that there be penalties.
I understand. Thanks.
Thank you. Next case.
All right. So we have one more person who's participating today. So this is going to be PDC case 155477 against Terry Carlson. They are a candidate for state rep in Legislative District 19. Staff is alleging that Terry Carlson violated RCW 42-17A-205, or sorry, 700. Yeah, 700, sorry. We're in a different section now. 700 for failing to timely file the personal financial affairs statement that was due within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate or by May 24th, 2024. They have filed their F1 report by today's hearing, but after the hearing notice. They have no prior violations, and as I said, they are participating. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 42-17A-700 against Terry Carlson for failing to timely file the F1 report and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37-143 for a filer with no prior violations who failed to timely file, or pardon me, who filed the F1 report by today's hearing. The recommended penalty for that is $150. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Is Mr. Carlson available?
Mr. Carlson, you should be able to, the top right, unmute yourself.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, thank
How
you.
weird. My screen was black and I had to go to my phone to unmute. That was weird.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carlson. This is Alan Hayward, the chair. If you'd raise your right hand and swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give under penalty of perjury is the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead and proceed.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm not going to be as flamboyant as some of the others. I did it. I screwed up. I hired a firm to handle all my treasury stuff because I struggled with it last year. And this was a miscommunication between me and that firm. I thought they were filing it. They thought I was filing it. So I did it.
Okay, that's an easy one.
It
Um,
wasn't racism or fascism or nothing else. I screwed up.
I appreciate that. With with the confession of that, we'll have to find a violation, of course. I would impose the $150 penalty, but I would suspend all but 75 of that. So if you have the reports and you do filed, then all that we need is the $75 within 30 days.
Perfect. And I've got everything in. I just want to check and make sure.
As far as I know, I think so. Okay,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're good to go. It's just staff will be in contact with you on how to get them $75 within the next 30 days. And I appreciate you very much for just being so forthright that it was just a screw up and you acknowledge.
Yeah, no, all me. I'm just a knuckle dragging logger trying to do the right thing.
Thank you very much. Okay, next case, please.
All right, so we are going to move on to our groups. And we're going to be starting with candidates with no prior violations who filed their C1 and F1 reports before the hearing. So this is going to be PDC cases 155489, Richard Wade, a candidate for County Charter Review Commission for Cle County, and 155490, Rita Cole Hall, candidate for County Commissioner for Pacific County. PDC staff is alleging these respondents violated RCW 4217A-205 and RCW 4217A-700 by failing to timely file the personal financial affairs statement and the candidate registration, which were both due within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate or no later than May 24th, 2024. In these cases, they have filed all the reports. They have no priors and they are not participating today, nor have they provided any written testimony. Staff recommends you find violations of RCW 4217A and RCW 4217A-205 and RCW 4217A-700 against these respondents for failing to timely file the C1 and F1 reports and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37143 for a filer with no prior violations who filed the C1 and F1 reports by the date of today's hearing. In this case, the recommended penalty would be $150 per report. Avail if you have any questions.
I would, based on the information given, find a violation and adopt the recommended penalties.
All right. So we're moving on to our next group. So this is going to be candidates with no prior violations who filed an F1 but failed to file a C1 report before today's hearing. So this is going to be PDC case 155480 against David Loby, who is a candidate for county commissioner in Adams County. Staff is alleging that this respondent violated RCW 4217A-205 and RCW 4217A-700 by failing to file or timely file the personal financial affairs statement and the candidate registration. These reports were both due within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate or by May 24th, 2024. This candidate has filed their F1 but have not filed their C1 reports by the date of today's hearing. They have no prior violations and they're not participating today, nor have they provided any written testimony. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 4217A-205 and RCW 4217A-700 against David Loby for failing to timely file the F1 and failing to file the C1 by the day of today's hearing, and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37143 for a filer with no prior violations. Avail if you have any questions. Oh, the recommended penalty would be $150 for the F1 that has been filed, and $250 for the C1 which has not been filed.
Okay, so for a total of $400.
Correct.
Okay, I will find the violations and adopt the recommendations for penalties. 150 and 250.
Yep. Was there a suspension?
There's no mitigating fact that is. Excuse me. One of the mitigating facts was the payment of. Sorry about that. There was a payment, a filing on the one. So
Yeah.
I would reduce that by 70 down to 75, suspended, and 75 payable, along with the 250. So it's 325.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Well, let me just make a note of that one because it's a little different.
Yeah, it's on the one penalty, it's 150, but with 75 suspended as long as the payment is made within 30 days. The other penalty is 250.
All right, and no suspension on that one. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to, I call them groups, but in this case, it's just another singleton. This is candidates with no prior violations who filed the C1 but failed to file the F1 before today's hearing. So this is going to be PDC case 155470 against Kathy Waldy, who is a candidate for County Charter Review Commissioner for Clallam County. PDC staff alleges that this respondent failed to violate RCW 42-17A-205 and RCW 42-17A-700 by failing to file or timely file the personal financial affairs statement and the candidate registration form, which were both due within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate or no later than May 24th, 2024. This candidate has filed their C1 but has not filed the F1 for the day of today's hearing. And they have no prior violations. They are not participating today, nor have they provided any written testimony for us. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 42-17A-205 and RCW 42-17A-700 against Kathy Waldy for failing to timely file the C1 and failing to file the F1 by the date of today's hearing, and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37-143 for a filer with no prior violations. I'm available if you have any. The recommended penalties for that would be 150 for the C1 and 250 for the F1.
Okay, I will find a violation based on those facts. On the C1, I would impose a penalty of 150 with 75 suspended, so long as payment is made within 30 days. And on the other F1, the 250 recommended.
All right. Thank you very much. Now we get an actual group. So these are going to be folks who have who failed to file both reports by today's hearing. So this is going to be PDC cases 155468 A.L. Brown, who's running for governor of the state of Washington. 155469 Bill Thomas, who's running for state representative in legislative district 31. 155481 Freddie Lane, County Charter Review Commissioner in Whatcom County. 155484 Karen O'Donnell, County Charter Review Commissioner for Clallam County. 155486 Matt McCauley, who's running for state representative in legislative district 37. 155487 Melvin Apana, state representative, running for state representative in legislative district 20. And 155492 Sadie Little, running for county charter review commissioner for Clallam County. Staff is alleging these respondents violated RCW 42-17A-205 and RCW 42-17A-700 by failing to file the personal financial affairs statement and the candidate registration form within 2 weeks of becoming a candidate or no later than May 24th, 2024. These respondents have not filed their reports as of the day of today's hearing.
And that's either report. They haven't filed either.
Correct.
Okay.
They have no prior violations, and they're not with us today, nor have they provided us any written testimony. Staff recommends you find a violation of RCW 4217A205 and RCW 4217A700 against these respondents for failing to file the C1 and F1 reports and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37143 for a filer with no prior violations who failed to file the C1 and F1 reports by the date of today's hearing. The recommendation for that would be $250 per report. I'm available if you have any questions.
Okay, I will, based on the evidence, find a violation and recommend that they do receive the suggested penalty of $250 for each violation, for a total of $500 in each case. Or did you mean to say 250 for both reports? It didn't look like that.
No, it's per report.
Yeah, so it'd be 500.
All right. Now Colin's going to take us the rest of the way home. I get to stop talking for a bit.
Take us home if I can. Thank you, Commissioner Hayward and our Chair Hayward and Commissioner Leach. We're going to move on now to going back to C1 reports, and these are for candidates with no prior violations who filed the C1 report before the hearing. This is PDC case 155460, Kimberly M. McLeod, who's running for state rep in Legislative District 34. And case 155465, Robert Ungers, who's running for a Public Utilities Commissioner in Watayam County. Staff is alleging that these respondents violated 4217A.205 for failing to timely file the candidate registration PDC form C1. The C1 report was due to be filed with the PDC within 2 weeks of the candidate declaring their candidacy with the appropriate elections office or otherwise becoming a candidate. In 2024, the candidate filing was May 6th through May 10th, 2024. So the C1 report was due to be filed no later than May 24th, 2024. These respondents filed the reports prior to the hearing. None of the respondents have had prior violations, and none of the respondents responded to the hearing notice or provided any materials for the hearing. Staff recommends that you find a violation of 4217A.205 against these respondents for failing to timely file the C1 report and assess an appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37143 for a filer with no prior violations who filed the C1 report. And the base penalty for no priors for this violation would be $150. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Before I make a ruling, Commissioner Leach, I understood with the start of the meeting that all these people were offered statements of understanding and an ability to settle for $100 per report. If I were to give some leniency here because they did file, what's your thinking on how much leniency to give?
$25.
All right, that's kind of where I am at. But I wanted to make clear why is it shouldn't be possible to turn down the one offer to seek a better offer without providing any information. So I'm inclined to find a violation, and the penalty is $150, but I will suspend, let's see, $25 of that in the event that they they've already turned in enough stuff, so it's $125 within 30 days.
Mr. Chair, it should be conditioned on them paying the $125 within the 30 days, though.
That's what I just think I said, within the 125. Okay. The 125 has to be paid within 30 days, or we come back and get the 100.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we get the full 150 if they don't pay it within 30. So next.
Okay, we're going to move on to candidates with no prior violations who filed the F1 report before the hearing, but did not file it timely. These are PDC cases 155472, Justin Graywolf, who is running for state rep in Legislative District 11. Case 155473, Leon Anon Lawson, who's running for governor of the state of Washington. PDC case 155474, Richard Bright, who is running for state rep of Legislative District 15. PDC case 155475, Robert Todd Andrews, who's running for county commissioner in Klickitat County. And finally, that is it, actually, that the other person was in, participated in the meeting. Staff is alleging that these respondents violated RCW 4217A 700 by failing to timely file the financial affairs disclosure statement, PDC form F1. The F1 report was due to be filed with the PDC within 2 weeks of the candidate declaring their candidacy with the appropriate elections office or otherwise becoming a candidate. These respondents failed to file the missing F1 report by today's hearing. None of the respondents have had prior violations. The respondents did not respond to the hearing notice or provide any materials for the hearing. Staff recommends that you find a violation of RCW 4217A 700 against these respondents for failing to timely file the F1 report and assess appropriate penalty in accordance with WAC 390-37-143 for file with no prior violations who did not file the F1 report. I apologize.
Thank you.
They did file the F1 report. I apologize.
They did, they did file,
Yeah,
but they filed late.
Yeah.
I will obviously find the violation and in each case allot the $150, make the $150 penalty, but would suspend $25. $25 of that penalty contingent upon them paying the 125 within 30 days.
Thank you.
I think you were muted.
All right, so I think we're done with all our cases. We do have one person here for public comment. So
Okay. Take the public comment.
Hey, Connor, you should be good to go.
Okay, thanks, Colin. 1 second. Just need to, okay, here we go. Well, hello, Chair Hayward and Vice Chair Leach. I often disagree with all of you, but I'm sorry that you guys have to deal with people like Mr. Haynes. At any rate, as part of a broader assessment into the agency's effectiveness, I decided to look at whether or not respondents were actually complying with orders issued by the Commission at enforcement hearings like this one. And the result that I found was pretty shocking. I found that 54% of the time, or just over half the time, respondents at hearings like this one did not comply with the orders issued by the Commission. And if you haven't read my comments already, I hope that you will both take some time to do so at some point after this meeting. And I wanted to provide just one common example of how this plays out. There was a Republican candidate who ran for State House in 2022 named Robert Amon. He sought an F1 reporting modification that he didn't qualify for, and the Commission denied his request. So how did the candidate respond? Well, he just simply didn't file the report. And the agency did impose a $200 fine on him with another $200 suspended. So for the mere price of $400, he was able to avoid filing an F1. So the penalty essentially functioned as an indulgence, and he's not the only one taking advantage of such a deal. It is examples like this that make it clear to members of the regulated community that the agency should not always be taken seriously when it comes to an enforcement case. And why should anyone take the PDC seriously when oftentimes the PDC does not take itself seriously and relies largely on a tidal wave of warning letters to paper over widespread noncompliance? If you, the commissioners, are not happy with how the agency is being perceived by the regulated community, you will have to act to change it. It will not change on its own. But at any rate, I wanted to touch on something that Director Lavallee said at last month's meeting. At the 1 hour mark, Director Lavallee compared himself to a member of Winston Churchill's war cabinet huddling in a bunker under Whitehall, and compared the complaints that I filed to the bombs that were dropped over London in World War II, which by implication draws an analogy between me and the German Luftwaffe. And it would be easy to be offended by such an analogy, but I think that it's actually very telling that Director Lavallee sees himself as operating in a bunker, because in sociology there is a term used to describe this attitude, and it is literally called the bunker mentality. It refers to a shared feeling of victimization and defensiveness felt by a group of people that has a tendency to shut down critical thought. You start thinking of people you disagree with in military terms. You see yourself as good and your opponents as evil. Your own way of thinking becomes insular and reactive. Less than 1 week from now, there is a perfect opportunity for the agency to break out of this way of thinking. On Tuesday, the 16th, there is a mandatory C4 that must be filed for all candidates appearing on the August primary ballot. If the agency was willing to send a notice to the candidates that don't file this form to give them an opportunity to quickly come into compliance within 2 days of the deadline, I would be willing to abstain from filing complaints against those people. Issuing non-filing notices is something that many other campaign finance jurisdictions have done successfully for years, and it's not a bizarre idea. If the agency adopted this practice, it would greatly reduce the number of complaints that I will file, and it would also save the agency a great deal of resources, and it would also benefit the public in terms of transparency. And I'll just end by saying that this hearing today shouldn't have had to happen. You all should consider supporting changes to state law to give Director Lavallee the authority to impose penalties in those limited cases where the issues are as simple as Johnny had to file a report by such a date and Johnny failed to do so. In many jurisdictions like the Seattle Ethics and Elections Commission, these cases don't go to a hearing. The director just assesses a penalty and mails it off, and the respondent pays it. And this would save a lot of time and resources, and it would allow the commissioners to focus on higher level issues and not have to deal with the nut cases like Mr. Haynes. But that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Connor. Okay, so that appears to be the end of the hearing. If Kim is here, I have a question for her.
I'm here.
I didn't want to really do too much, but aren't we planning on doing something about the August filers in terms of warning them that they need to file?
The July mandatory C4s, yes. As we committed to the commission, we've been building the system to be able to query the data to know who those folks are, and to tie that into a reminder system. So yeah, we will be doing that this month.
One of the suggestions Connor was making, I think, is something that we pretty much already adopted. Is that we're gonna warn these people they need to file.
Correct.
Okay, is there any other comments from Commissioner Leach or any staff?
I don't have anything further, no.
Okay, well, hopefully I didn't make it too bad, but we'll try to get better. Thank you very much. And
okay, very good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Alan, if you want to officially adjourn the meeting, I'll stop the recording.
All right, the meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day off.